Hello everyone, my name is Gabby and I am here at the Andersons in Naperville with the very lovely and talented author Ashley Poston, who is most known for Geekerella and her most recent release, Heart of Iron, and she has graciously taken time out of her day to sit down with me and answer a few of my questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, yes. It was quite wonderful for you to invite me here. Hi guys!
Okay, so if you want to very briefly introduce yourself and give a basic synopsis as to what your newest novel is about for those who aren't familiar.
Alright, so my name is Ashley Poston and I am a super huge fangirl, just saying. And my first novel, Geekerella, is Cinderella at a sci-fi convention, and it's nerdy and it's great and it's awesome, and it is nothing like Heart of Iron, which is my new thing that's just come out, and it's Anastasia in space, right? And it has blood and it has like political intrigue and it has lost princesses and it has romance and it has androids and it has all these cool things and a crown that doesn't rust, and it's fantastic, and it has female starship captain sword fights, and it's everything that I could have ever wanted.
Those of you who are out there may know Ashley, like as she said before, from her debut novel Geekerella, which was of course incredibly successful and very well deserved.
Thank you so much!
Alright, what stage in the writing process were you in for Heart of Iron when Geekerella started to receive such positive reception, and did this hype affect your writing process at all and what you wanted to make prominent in Heart of Iron?
Whew, that's a big question. Actually, I wrote Heart of Iron before I ever knew about Geekerella. Geekerella was actually a story that Quirk came to me about. They're like, hey, you're super fangirly online. Do you want to write this Cinderella story? And I'm like, oh my god, it's a geeky Cinderella? Like, count me in. And so they gave me free reign and I just like jumped at it. Like, Geekerella is a story that I didn't know I needed to write, and if Geekerella is my heart, Heart of Iron is my soul. And Heart of Iron has been 6 years in the making. It is my child. It is the one story that I could never get out of my head. Kind of like a song that you hear over and over and over and you can never ever get it out of your head. That was Heart of Iron for me.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
With writing, it's a very individual process, and each person has their own unique style of storytelling. So when you first started writing, how did you develop your persona as a writer, and how has it changed since the release of your second novel?
That is a very good question. I started writing fanfic a long time ago, and I always say that writing fanfic is the best way to understand character and character development and like putting characters that you already know in certain situations, and so that definitely like helped out a lot in my writing process. When you craft your own story, you have to be a fan of your own book first. Like, you have to be a super fan of your own book first. I just like took everything that I knew from fanfic and just applied it to fiction, and it was like a seamless transition. I've always been writing and I always will write, and I'm just a fangirl at heart, and what can I say?
Yeah, and I can very much relate to that.
Right? I mean, don't you always want like a really solid OTP that you can just like get behind?
And there's plenty within Heart of Iron.
Oh,
I can say, having recently finished the novel, I loved it.
Thank you.
So when sitting down to write Heart of Iron, how did the writing process work for you? What type of environment did you want to be in while writing, not only physically, but maybe mentally as well?
Ugh, I've been so long writing this book that it's really hard to okay, so I have a playlist, right? And this playlist, like, I always listen to when I'm not writing because I can't write and listen to music at the same time. So basically, I listen to this playlist like between writing, and like I listen to the same songs over and over and over again. And there's this one song by Marianas Trench called Who Do You Love that iTunes has recorded me listening to over 1,200 times.
Oh my gosh.
So just put that song in Heart of Iron, and that's basically like the feeling.
Okay. When you're writing, is there maybe a certain point where maybe if you're feeling a little bit upset, you want to write a sadder scene, or like mentally, like when you're writing, or you just sort of like just start writing, or does it, you have a certain mindset that you want to be in when you're writing a certain type of scene?
Usually, like I have certain scenes I'm planning out when, but it really all depends. The way I write, I start from the beginning. I usually know the end, but sometimes I don't. For Heart of Iron, I knew where I wanted to go. I knew the ending, and the ending's gonna be in the sequel, Soul of Stars, which I'm so excited I can finally talk about. I've been sitting on that news for so long, and people have been asking me, is there gonna be a sequel, for like months, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
Did you plan it to be that way, to have a sequel? Or?
Yeah, I had originally like written Heart of Iron as a duology, and when the first book sold, I was like, okay, here we go. I had to prove myself, and I did, and now Soul of Stars is happening, and I'm just really excited. Anyway, but back to your question. I am sometimes in the mood to write certain scenes, scenes, but especially when you're under deadline, you don't have the option to write a sad scene or write a happy scene. You have to just like write down the draft, and then later on you can go back and kind of like tweak it. I mean, if I'm not under deadline, it's ideal, but I'm never not under deadline anymore.
I can completely relate to that as a high school student.
Yeah, like so many deadlines, right? Homework all the time and essays and
being in like 3 AP classes and
oh my gosh,
I'm in so many clubs and things, and like then doing like all the fun extra things. Like,
see, I relate. I was just in like honors English. Everything else is just regular because I'm terrible at math. Just
no, so am I.
Don't ask me to math.
Got shoved into honors math anyway. It probably wasn't a smart thing.
Well,
but
you know, you're probably doing really well. I mean, I would have like tanked it so hard.
Oh, AP Physics right now is like the bane of my existence.
Oh, just that AP Physics, just that word hurts my soul.
Oh yeah, no,
like,
it's so painful. There's so many tests that I've bombed, and like even today I got back a grade where I like didn't even finish, and it was like, oh. But I mean, it's luckily enough I have a really nice teacher who's like willing to work with me, but like all the classes, it's the worst.
That is so, see, like, I usually hate math, and I almost always hate science too, but then like in high school I got into astronomy. I love space, like, and then when I took the course, I loved space even more.
Right.
And it was the most amazing experience, and like that kind of helped me prepare for Heart of Iron and like figuring out that bodies can't burn in space, and like you suffocate. That's how you die in space, and like the spit on your tongue starts to boil.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's super horrific, but you can last in space for like 2 to 3 minutes if you like exhale all your breath so you don't explode. But yeah, so it's so much fun. I love it.
So things like that, sort of on a similar note, talking about research. Obviously, as an author, you know that research is really important to crafting a novel.
Yes.
So since Anastasia is a very historically rich story, how much or what type of research did you do for Heart of Iron, and how did you know to limit yourself in order to create a truly unique story?
The legends of Anastasia is so steeped in like mystical Rasputin and like innocent lost princess. And in real life, the Romanovs were terrible people. Like the fairy tale is all nice, but like when you get into the actual historical context of what was happening, like it's not a great story. It's propaganda. When you go into like Anastasia knowing that, you have to change certain elements to make it like, I made Anastasia a lost princess story, but I call it Anastasia in space because it's easier for people to say, oh, Anastasia lost princess. I kind of understand this now. And so it's an easier way to market and connect the book, but it's really just a lost princess book.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, for those who may not know, I love Broadway. It's one of my favorite things.
Me too. I just saw Frozen.
Yes, I saw that, and I saw your tweets afterwards. It seems you weren't as happy with it as you would have liked to do.
You know, I had so much optimism going into that Broadway, and then it just froze my cold, dead heart. It's fine.
Surprise. But Anastasia came back to Broadway last year. Did you get to see it?
I saw it when it was in Hartford.
Ooh.
While I was still on submission with Heart of Iron.
So was that helpful for your research, or like did you see certain things in the show that you wanted to maybe bring into the book, like the way that certain characters were depicted, or?
Oh, not at all.
So it was just more like for fun.
Yeah, it was just for fun. All the characters in Heart of Iron are like wholly my own. Closest one to like it's like their historical counterpart is Rasavant, who is Rasputin. Yeah. Like the Dimitri character is super different, and like the backstory for him is different, and you get to find out a lot more about the Dimitri character in Soul of Stars and like what happens there.
Oh, which I'm so excited about, because talking about his character, I love. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Which like the Dimitri character is like wholly Don Bluth. It's like not in any his historical context.
Right.
Like it's not in history, right? Dimitri was like written by Don Bluth in the Anastasia movie to like ferret Anastasia away. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're totally fine. But one of the things that I was gonna say is that one of my favorite things about your writing style is the way that you blend concepts within your novels. So to give an example of this, in Heart of Iron, there's a character that is called Dio9, and he's an android. He's found with Anna. They're pretty much like counterparts, so like really have a really close relationship. If you look at the way that that is spelled out, it looks like dog, which is Anastasia in the movie. Her counterpart is a dog. That's one of her like sort of like sidekicks in a way. So when you're creating those sorts of things, how is it that you come up with that? Because I just thought it was brilliant, and I was watching the Anastasia movie at like 1:30 in the morning, and I went and I looked at the synopsis, and I saw it, and I had like a freak out attack, and I was like, how does she do it?
You know, the funny thing is, I didn't think about the dog thing until you just said it.
Oh my gosh.
So that's you, and that's fantastic. Like, I didn't even think of that.
What? Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Because I was like, she had to have totally known what she was doing there because that was so clever.
DO9 is literally DO9 because it took 9 drafts to get dye right.
That is amazing.
Yeah, that's why.
That is, oh my gosh, now that like completely mind blown. That's amazing.
Yeah, it took like 9 drafts for me to like to get all these characters together. Like first he was Dion, then he was Dine, and then he was like DO5, and then I started counting up until he became DO9, which is who he is now. Yeah.
That's so brilliant. I love knowing that now. Talking a little bit about fandom, because of course if I'm in a room with you, we have to talk about this.
Yes, please.
Is that it gives a safe space for all those who are passionate about a particular topic to convene together to share their love for that said topic.
And just fangirl.
Yes, so what is the most iconic or memorable experience that you've had because of fandom? This interview would definitely be one of mine.
Oh gosh, there are so many. There are literally so many. Because of Geekarella, I got the chance to be on so many panels with so many amazing women. I got to go on a book tour with Hope Nicholson and Sam Maggs, who are 2 fantastic people in the book world. I've gotten to meet so many people, so many awesome authors that I would never have met otherwise. But my favorite, like my most fangirly moment was in London with Sam Maggs, and we were like walking out of the convention center, and the dude playing Archie was like running in late basically, like Archie from Riverdale, and I was like, oh, I love Riverdale. Right? I'm like, he's shorter than I thought he'd be, and like he heard me and I was like, no.
KJ.
Nope, we're going that way.
Because they're actually having a Riverdale con in Chicago.
Really?
It's in April, so it's like the end of April, and I got my friend to go with me, so like Cole Sprouse and Casey Codd are gonna be there.
Oh, that's
so
like
the 2 I'm excited about.
Oh my gosh.
So that's fun.
But yeah, so that was like one of my favorite fangirl moments. And then like the other one, I got to be on a panel with a lot of really cool people, like at every single con. Like I fangirl over everyone I'm with. Like it's just like CB Lee, Victoria Schwab, Yasel, the designer geek, Wendy, Angry Girl Comics. It's just like there's so many amazing people out there who are creating amazing content, and I love everyone that I meet.
So talking about Victoria Schwab, she blurbed Heart of Iron, which is really cool. How does the blurbing process work for those who aren't familiar, and do you want to talk about your involvement in that process at all, if you have any?
I sometimes like go out and like I ask the authors myself if like they would like to blurb it, and then we send them an ARC or a bound galley. Sometimes my publisher does it. It really all depends. On the opposite side, like my agent forwards all of the blurb requests for me to me, and I just got one today, and like it's pretty cool, and it's kind of like nerve-wracking because these are people that you look up to,
right,
and that you really love their work, and so it's kind of like you're nudging, going, can you like look at my lowly book, please? like if you have time. It's very humbling, and I'm very humbled by all of the blurbs and all of the people who have like tweeted about it and talked about it, and it's been a fantastic experience.
Yeah. Talking a little bit then about fandom culture again, obviously Geekarella is known for its representation of fandom culture, so translating that to your newest release, what fandom would each of the characters from Heart of Iron be in, and would they want to cosplay as any of the characters from their fandom of choice?
This is hard. I'm a huge Star Trek fan.
Yes.
And I know like DO9 would be too. He would be a super hardcore Star Trek fan, and he would probably cosplay Data. DO9 was inspired after Data. I feel like there'd be some connection there, and I love cosplay because you get to be someone else for a few minutes, or you get to be like not better than yourself, but you get to be someone who like conquer worlds and who can slay dragons, and it's fantastic. And this is a fantastic experience. And so I think Anna would probably cosplay as oh gosh. Oh, what's her name? What's her name from, oh gosh.
Game of Thrones?
No. Black Panther, what's her name? She's the general from Black Panther. That would be her jam. Like, Okoye. She would,
Okoye?
I think it's Okoye. Yes. Yeah, Anna would totally cosplay as the general from Black Panther, Okoye. Like, she would just sing like, that's badass, and it totally is. Jackson Robb would probably be like Voltron trash, if we're being honest.
I could see that.
Like, totally Voltron trash.
If we're gonna talk about fandom, we have to sort the Heart of Iron characters into Hogwarts houses. That's
yes.
a tradition on the booktube.
Good. Anna would be... She would totally be Gryffindor. Who am I?
That's what I was
Who would... Well, actually, I changed believes that she would be Slytherin. She would be super Slytherin because she is ambitious. She also charges like head first into stuff when she really shouldn't, but I think she becomes more Slytherin throughout the book. So I say beginning is definitely Gryffindor, but by the end Anna is totally Slytherin. DO9 is Hufflepuff all the way. Like Di is like the huffliest of Hufflepuffs. Jax is probably also Slytherin because he's very ambitious. And he's ambitious in his own way, and he's ambitious like to a fault. Now Rob is Gryffindor. Rob has like his heart bleeding on his sleeve.
What would you say about Eric?
Eric is Rob's brother, older brother. I would say he'd be Slytherin. Like just because he's also really ambitious, and like it's not a spoiler, but Eric wants the crown and he wants it real bad. And that travels into the sequel too, where he wants it even worse.
So there's the hashtag Bays in Space, which is associated with Heart of Iron. Do you want to talk about what inspired the hashtag?
Yes, I can. Someone told me early on that all of the characters were super bays, and I was like, I can see that. And then like I always do Anastasia in space, and so it just became Bays in Space, which I now realize rhymes with gays in space, which also works out.
It does.
Because there's a lot of queer people in my book, which there's gonna be more queer people in the sequel.
Okay, so talking about sort of like behind the scenes of publishing a novel, some of those fun things, there's been plenty of beautiful artwork that has been circulating relating to Heart of Iron, especially some that's used as part of the pre-order campaign. Do you want to talk about the process of how that artwork for your book came to be?
The pre-order artwork?
Yeah, sure.
Well, the pre-order artwork came about because I was on tour for Geekarella. I was at a con, Emerald City actually, which is happening right now. But it was this time last year. I had been to a lot of cons before, but I had never like gone up and like, you know, said, hey, can you commission something for me? And one of my favorite artists, MJ Erickson, she was at her table by some like stroke of luck. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And so I walked up to her and I was like, hi, I know you don't know me, but would you want to do a commission for me for a book? And she was like, yeah, sure. And so we communicated for like the next year basically, and she read Heart of Iron, and like I didn't even have to really like write anything down. She plucked the characters from my head and just put them on the page. It was the coolest thing ever to see, and she is fantastic. Everyone should follow her on Twitter and Instagram. She's Krugen, K-R-E-U-G-A-N or E-N, something along those lines.
So obviously one of the things you keep mentioning is that Heart of Iron was an Anastasia retelling that was turned into a space opera. So what is it that inspired you to want to retell Anastasia's story in the manner that you did, and what specific elements about the original story captivated you to want to create Heart of Iron?
I really love the Lost Princess trope. I know a lot of people don't, and a lot of people think it's like contrived and overused. I like it enough to have written a book about it basically, but I also like the cast of characters around that trope. I love Anna to death, but I also really love the people that surround her too. And I really wanted to place these like 4 different characters in this like one dynamic. And I wanted to see like where it went and what happened. It was basically a character study. I had these characters, I put them in a situation, and I was like, here you go, have fun, go, see you later. They were like, this is the story we want to tell. And they told it and I went along for the ride.
When writing Heart of Iron, how did you decide the way that you wanted to portray the characters to the audience visually? And was there any character that was difficult to visualize when writing Heart of Iron?
No character was really that hard to visualize. They all just kind of like popped into my head, like almost fully formed. That's kind of weird to say, but I had been playing around with some OCs for a while in fanfic, but they had always like gone under like different names, and they always like looked different, but they had these like strong personalities. Like I finally pulled them into Heart of Iron into these like 4 points of view, and so that's how that happened.
Hi, that's really cool. All right, so with Heart of Iron being a multi-perspective novel, how did you decide which character's point of views you were going to include to tell the story from a specific chapter? So like deciding this chapter was going to be from this character's perspective.
That was really hard because it has one linear narrative, and I started at first to like rotate it through like all 4 like over and over, but then I realized like some chapters are better from Anna's perspective than say Jax's, and Jax wasn't even a POV until way late in the game.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because like you can't think of like the story without him now, and like there was always something that didn't fit until I like added his point of view, and I was like, oh, that was the missing piece. Okay, I got it now. And it just depended on where I needed the story to go at that moment, to like who would tell it and who would be best to tell it. For Iron Blood Noble interaction, I definitely chose Rob because Rob understood that. Rob could explain to the readers better than say Anna in that scenario. Like same with Jax and DO9. I mean, his perspective alters halfway through the book for spoilery reasons.
Can you explain the process that you went through to get the title of Heart of Iron, and did it somehow originate from the Firefly episode Heart of Gold, because I noticed those titles were kind of similar, and mentioning that Firefly was sort of like one of the things that you mentioned, like in marketing, Heart of Iron.
You know, I'm not gonna say you're wrong. At first it was called Iron and Stars. It was that for a long time, but that got too generic because everything was like this and that or this and that. Shadow and Bone, you know. I decided to go with something else, and yeah, that was it. I was like, okay, let's do this. And so like Heart of Iron, better. It was very easy to play like Heart of Iron to Soul of Stars, and they fit perfectly in like the metaphors that I was trying to make with them.
Yes. So you mentioned Soul of Stars, which is your sequel. Is there anything that you maybe want to tease to the audience for people who've maybe already read Heart of Iron, things to expect?
Without spoiling what happens at the end of Heart of Iron, because
it's a ride, guys. You're gonna very much enjoy it. I did.
Thank you. I will say that you will get a lot more of Dio9 and a lot more of Jax in the exact ways that you think you will. Nothing will go the way you want it to go.
Oh no. Because I could definitely say that Jax has become one of my favorite characters reading this book. I absolutely love him, so it was weird to hear you say that you weren't sure like what his involvement was going to be, or seeing that like you weren't sure that he was going to have a point of view, because I love him. Yeah, like character so much that it'd be weird to not have him in the story.
Right, it would be so weird. And then like all of a sudden he's like, hey, yeah, I'm this person. And then in the sequel he's like, I'm a bigger person now, because Soul of Stars alludes like directly to him.
Yeah.
It alludes directly to him and to Dio9. Not to spoil anything.
For those of you who haven't read Heart of Iron, you all should go and pick it up. All of the links will be in the description where you can go and do that. That's about it for this interview. Thank you so much again for sitting down with me and answering all of my questions. If you guys want to follow Ashley on her social media, do you want to tell them where?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Ash Poston, ASHPOSTON, and on Instagram at _AshPoston. And I tweet a lot about Broadway shows and anime and manga and like Voltron. There's gonna be a lot of Voltron in the next few months because the new season just dropped, like 6 hours ago. So I'm gonna be Voltron trash for a bit. So thank you so much for having me on here.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. This being my first author interview, I was a little bit nervous, but this was such a wonderful experience.
Oh, awesome.
I'm so grateful for you for making this happen. And of course to Anderson's in Naperville. If you want to check them out, their links will be down below. And of course to TEENREADS, which was a big help in helping to set all of this up. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!
Bye!
Broadway, here I come.